I'm not that concerned about it.
No.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good to be with you all. Thanks for coming. Many of you were here a few weeks ago when we introduced this idea, and a lot's happened since then. A lot of conversations have happened. We are here with Paul. He'll introduce himself here in just a moment from Global Travel Alliance. But since we last met, we selected Paul. We've sent out a survey. We gathered all those comments, all those questions, all those yeses and those nos, and felt like we had a very strong, more than 80% of our families were interested in this trip. So we've gone ahead and made that decision to have the trip. This is all about getting more of your questions answered, and I think putting a face with a name. We're really excited about our partnership with Paul and with Global Travel Alliance. And so he has a presentation to let you know everything that the trip's going to look like: security, hotel, airfare, all those kind of things. Afterwards, if you have any questions for him or for Mr. Gonzalez or myself or Ms. Linden, let us know. Everything that I shared with you in the first meeting is the same. So we're not deviating from any of those things that we went over in that first meeting. But if you have any more questions, please let me know. Got about 7 people on this call. We also are recording it. I know there's a couple big volleyball games tonight. Paul's from Montana. He's only here tonight.
Just
So
for you guys.
there was no, changing the meeting to a different night or anything like that. So that's why we're recording this, and we'll share it out to the rest of the families for them. So this same presentation is on there. I'm going to do my best to keep up with the presentation. And then at the end, after all the questions on trips and all those things and how that will all work, we got a fundraising packet I'll pass out and explain how that's going to work and what the options are now and what we're discussing to do in the months ahead. So that is our agenda. I'll turn it over to Paul.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me here, everybody. It's really a treat to be visiting here, and it's always nice to be in the building with the schools that we're going to be working with, and to meet Charlie and Nathan and kind of solidify this partnership. And my apologies. I think some of this presentation, some of you have probably seen, so I'm going to move through it, not too fast, but my whole presentation usually is about 20 minutes. And then if there's questions lingering, I'll stick around for as long as you guys need in order to get your questions addressed, and then turn it over to the fundraising part. Okay. So let's see if this all works here.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about who you guys are partnering with, Global Travel Alliance. I'm going to touch on a bit about my experiences, just to kind of put in context about who you're working with directly with me. And then I'll cover safety, itinerary, price, inclusions, and then how to get enrolled. And then we'll open up for questions. Okay. And by the way, enrollment's working because we already have 5 people enrolled in the trip, which is pretty good. So Global Travel Alliance is a company that's based out of Montana, of all places. It's the last place you would think you would establish an international education travel company. But the founder of the company, who hired me 12 years ago, was a former 8th grade history teacher, became a school administrator, and he saw all these trips being marketed to his teachers and these schools going out and doing these trips. And he just felt he could do something better. Something that was a little bit more customizable, something that was really neat, because knowing that every school is different, every community is different. How do you build something that's really going to be truly a unique experience for those kids in that community? We thought he could do it at a better price and just make it a much more personable experience. This industry is huge. I didn't know about it until I started, and it's dominated by a few really large corporations. And there's just a nice niche for a company like ours where we can do everything as far as convenience, safety, and all those other things that the big companies do. Be a little bit more personalized. And so the reason I'm here is because we really grow as a company through word of mouth. I was introduced to Nathan through Terry Mullaney over at Ascension, who I've been working with for 8 years. And I've also been working with another teacher at DeSales for a number of years. And so I just asked him, who else should I talk to? And so that's how this kind of comes together. And so I really appreciate, I know you had other options, but I really appreciate and value you guys' commitment to us. Our model is built on one client, one trip. So that, again, just touching on that, every trip and every client is a little bit different. Everybody has a different way that they want to do these. We bring 15 years of expertise in taking literally thousands of students to Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, Williamsburg, Gettysburg, Monticello, Boston, Philadelphia, Lancaster. We've done all those trips. And so we bring a lot of expertise, but we are always there to customize it to what you guys want. And then I'm going to be with you guys from start to finish. So I don't hand you guys off to somebody else in my team. I have a team in the airline department. We have our own in-house airline department. And then I also have an operations team. And then I also have a lead guide who handles all the training and hiring of the guides. We all work together as a team to build the trip exactly the way you guys want this trip to happen. But I'm your point of contact. So I'm here not just for Nathan and Charlie, but for you guys as well. You'll get my, if you don't have it already, you'll be able to get my email address and cell phone number and be able to contact me at any time. Okay. Those are not my kids. I did not take that picture, but this is my experiences, I guess. So like I said, I've been doing this for 12 years, but I've been an educator for 25 years. Interestingly, I was born and raised in Cincinnati, proud graduate of Cincinnati St. Xavier, raised in the Catholic community in Cincinnati as well. So it's kind of a little bit coming home. Our communities aren't that different. But I did move out to Montana after graduating from college, spent a long career doing nonprofit education work, and then finally met Jeff Peterson, the owner of this company 12 years ago and started working here for him. I technically am the director of our G-Trek program, which is our science, outdoor, and adventure programs. Those are the trips that I oversee in the company. But the first 6 years I worked for Global Travel Alliance, I guided probably 70 days a year in Washington, D.C., and New York, and all up and down the East Coast. So with me, I just say that I've been to all these places. I've guided every different 6th, 7th, and 8th grader you can possibly imagine from all over the country. So, I mean, I bring a lot of that expertise to the table as far as working through any problems, but also helping build your guys' program. I always start with safety because even though we're taking care of payments, we're taking care of all the logistics of flights and hotels and activities and making sure everything runs the way we want it to run. Our number one responsibility is so first of all, on this itinerary, everything that we have on this itinerary is what we're promising we're going to deliver. You know, barring government shutdowns and other things that are out of our control, weather and things like that. That's what we're going to deliver. And ideally, we're going to deliver in that day-to-day format. So instead of having a menu of like, oh, we're going to fit this in here, fit that in there, we really kind of have like a pedagogical theme to each day. Like day 2 is freedom is not free. And then day 3, branches to government, balance of power. But those sites and those activities wouldn't be offered to you if we didn't feel like we could implement and do those things safely. So there's a lot of thought that goes just into planning the itinerary. There's a handful of other things that are concrete that we deal with that we implement to make sure the kids are going to be safe. One is, you know, we have risk management policies, we have emergency action policies, we have policies on everything from even how do you safely check in a group to the hotel the first night, and how do you leave a museum, how do you what is the what is your every guide talk starts off with a safety briefing on what are your boundaries, where are we at, excuse me, and all those kind of things. Those policies are peer reviewed by a third party, and we were actually the first company in the country to get this certificate of safety record from the Student Youth and Travel Association. There's other companies that signed on to this, but we sought that out just to make sure, even though we were really confident in how we were running our trips to begin with, we felt that third-party review could add some more value and strength to our programs. We always have private security in the hotel just for your group. So we're not that big of a company that we're ever going to have 100 groups in Washington, D.C. at one time. You guys are traveling during busy time of year, so we may have 6 or 7 in the city at the same time, and maybe even a couple groups at the same hotel. But we hire a security firm and security guard just for your group. So that guard is not covering 3 or 4 different floors in the hotel. They're just monitoring our rooms. And they stay in the hallways, they check in at 10 o'clock at night, and they're there until 4:30 in the morning. And they work with the chaperones and the Global Travel Alliance guide that's with the trip. And they are there to watch our rooms, make sure nobody comes out, and also make sure no strangers come to our rooms or anything like that. All of our vendors, our hotels, our transportation companies, we have longstanding relationships with. A lot changed when COVID hit. Fortunately, almost all the vendors that we always worked with in the past survived, and they're still working, and they're rehiring and getting back up to speed and things like that. But we only work with our most trusted partners. We have a 24-hour emergency response team that's on call during trip season. That's almost as much for you guys back at home. It's like a 911 number for us, but it's also used by the guides and the chaperones. So if something goes down on the trip and we need some backup or support, they have that number to call. But also if something happens here at home and you need to get in touch with your son or daughter right away, that's the number that you're going to call. Because you know, it's a quicker, more efficient way to get into our emergency response team. And then on this trip, we're going to have a 1-for-8 chaperone to student ratio. So for every 8 students, there's going to be 1 chaperone. But on top of that, you're going to have a Global Travel Alliance guide that's with the group from start to finish. We have a 24/7 model for guides working with our groups. They kind of become part of the group, and you guys all become like one family working together. And that guide stays at the hotel, is eating all the meals. They're with you from the moment you get down to baggage claim in DC, and then they'll see you through airport security on the flight home. So we feel that's a really important part of not only just building good rapport and just having a great, the guide just becomes really important to having a great experience, but it's also safety. It's like the chaperones and the guide become kind of the safety team as well. So,
Can I add one thing to that
Yeah.
too? And I think you said the standard is usually 1 to 10.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
So we wanted to go 1 to 8 instead of 1 to 10. And I think that Father Jeff is really interested in going. So he might be able to be there too. He won't be a chaperone. And then we're also going to work it out where if possible, I will be attending, but I will also not be the chaperone so that I can move from group to group. If something comes up, I can go to a group rather than have my 7 or 8, students come with me at the school. Something here at home happens and they call me. I want to be able to step away and take that phone call and then jump back in, to an exhibit or whatever else is going on. So with Global Travel's guide plus that
Mhm.
team, I feel really good about, the support that we will
Mhm.
have. But I just wanted to add, I know you said that 1 to 8 is like the lowest usually.
well, yeah, 1 to 8 is usually, it goes anywhere from 1 to 6 to 1 to 15. Kind of just depends on the group. Like we do some trips with 5th graders, and since they're that young, parents do go on those trips, so they don't need as many other chaperones and so on. So, but it's a good healthy supervision and ratio for for the students. Slides cutting out a little bit, but this is the same. Just going to walk through the itinerary really quick. This is the same stuff that's on your your piece of paper there. I won't go through in the detail, but like I mentioned, we kind of try to organize things around an educational theme, but also kind of how you move safely and efficiently through the city. So we're not backtracking all the time. If you've been to Washington, D.C. and you look at this itinerary, you're like, how in the heck are you guys going to see and do everything? Well, one of the things is that we have our own private motor coach for the entire trip. This is Kirk Dousman. He's been a long time guide and driver for us for many years. That guide and driver stays with us the entire trip. And so they're like, we don't have to deal with parking. They know how to get around the city. They're clued in onto which streets are under construction or not. They drop us off in front of the Smithsonian Museum. We say, be back here at 4:30. They're waiting for us at 4:30 and away we go. So it's very efficient that way. That first day, we'll end up having an early morning flight out of Louisville. And then we'll make our way and usually get there by 10:30 to noon, somewhere around that time. And then we'll immediately start touring. Smithsonian Museum, we'll try to get at least one of them in that day. And then we do a nice walking tour through Ford's Theater or outside of Ford's Theater and Peterson House. We go to the White House, go outside the White House, do a photo stop. I know that doesn't fit with our educational themes, but that's a branch of government balance of power. But since we're there in that part of town, we do that there. Kids always want to go souvenir shopping, so usually it's nice to get that out the first night and so that they get all their DC garb and they're ready to go. Let's see. I think this is the most important day. I've guided, like I said, I'm probably 300 trips to DC. I never get tired of going to Wilmington. To be honest, I don't need to go to the Holocaust Memorial Museum again. It's a phenomenal museum. But it's hard. It's not really that pleasant to go through that at times. And so, but Arlington, I just don't think, I think kids really get that idea of service and sacrifice when they understand what all those headstones mean. And then you start meeting and learning some of the stories. Our guides are pulling out stories of famous people. We have Supreme Court Justice buried there, JFK and RFK. But you also have some of the people that maybe not so well known in history that our guides have researched and can tell some really neat stories about those folks as well. And we spend a full morning. I think the highlight of that trip is going to see the changing of the guard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's a really special event as well. And then right next door, we go to the U.S. Marine Corps Memorial, or what they call the Iwo Jima Memorial. And then we'll go to Pentagon City Mall for lunch. That afternoon is when we'll get in the Holocaust Memorial Museum. And then we'll do a tour of the Basilica. And then we'll also have a mass at the Basilica. And I think that's going to fit in really nicely. That's not we might have to move that to one of the different afternoons. We got to work with the church and find out where that's going to work. Because we want to do dinner there too. Apparently they have a decent dinner and they offer it to the student groups. And I think it would work out to a tour, mass, and then dinner afterwards. So that's what we're hoping is going to happen. And then that evening, we do what we call the Tidal Basin Tour, the FDR, Jefferson, and Martin Luther King memorials. Branches of government, balance of power starts off with a tour of the U.S. Capitol building. And that is where we go into the building. And if you've never been there, it's beautiful. It's just stunning. And they have their own guides that will lead the student group through the tour of the Capitol building. And then we take the tunnel to go over to the Library of Congress. I think it's probably it's like the US's version of the Sistine Chapel. I mean, it's stunning. It's a beautiful building. I could spend hours in there. Every student group I've taken there is done in 20 minutes. They take their picture of the library with the National Treasure picture and then check out Jefferson's library and then move on. And then we'll get into more Smithsonian museums and visit the newest Smithsonian Museum. And that's the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture. And then that night, we'll do an Old Town Alexandria ghost tour. And then that last day, we'll go out to Mount Vernon and George Washington's estate, which is really spectacular because the estate sits up out in the Virginia countryside. You're up looking over the Potomac River, and they've just done the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. There's an organization that actually bought this, raised the money, and refurbished everything. Back in like 1950s, this place was run down. Nobody even took care of it. Like you would go down the Potomac River on a boat and you would see this mansion up there. And it was really, I think the way the story goes is one of the local ladies is like, whose is that place? It's all run down. And somebody said, well, that's George Washington's estate. And they figured out and started a nonprofit to do it, to fix it up. It's a really cool stop. We'll visit the Spy Museum, brand new Spy Museum. And then we should be able to get an appointment to the National Archives, which is always great to see the Charters of Freedom. And then we'll see what our flights are like and see what else we can fit in. Okay. So everything is included. We really try to make it easy on you guys and don't have a lot of add-on costs because I know some other companies will do that. So we really just, it's really all inclusive. Your flights are included, the lodging's included, the nighttime security, all the activities and sites that we're going to visit as far as related to the itinerary, the tour director, a monthly payment schedule, our liability insurance, all the support teams and all that stuff is all included. let's see, the gratuity for your guides and driver is already included. Now, I will just comment that it is customary that, the last day, the group leader will, if you get a really good driver and a really good guide, to just like kind of pass the hat and say, hey, kids, would you like to add a couple more bucks to the gratuity? But just know the base gratuity of what is customary for your guide and driver is already included. So if they have any money left over after buying souvenirs, maybe they can throw a couple bucks in there. And then the trip protection plan is not included, but it is optional, so I'll get to that. We also provide luggage tags and journals. You guys will learn more about the significance of the luggage tags when we do our pre-trip meeting about 3 weeks before we go on the trip. Let's see. Not included, spending money, snacks, souvenirs, and then baggage fees. We think it's going to be really important that you guys don't check any bags. I've just done enough of these groups that it's very rare that, in the exception that a student really needs to check a bag. It just makes it a lot more easier and fluid getting onto the plane and then also just moving right into airplane mode. We had Southwest Airlines one year lose 150 bags and they didn't get those back until they got home. So it just really saves that. It's only 4 days. We give you guys a really good what to bring and what not to bring list when we do our pre-trip meeting. So sometimes that can be helpful as well. I won't go to too much detail about this, but since I'm here, I'll explain the trip protection plan. Everybody calls it insurance, but it's technically not insurance. The people that provide the trip protection plan for us, they make it very clear that say it is not insurance, but it acts. So it gives you a premium cancellation policy, which says that you can cancel for any reason up to 24 hours before we go, any reason of a personal nature up to 24 hours before we go, and you get a full refund minus the cost of the trip protection plan and minus the $150 deposit. Okay. And I say personal reason, that's like bad grades, bad behavior, family emergency, medical emergency. Susie rolls her ankle at volleyball a day before we go and is not going to be able to walk around 8 miles a day. Those are the kind of things that the trip protection plan covers. It does not cover cancellation as a result of acts of war, civil unrest, or pandemics. Okay, so acts of God is what they would call it. So it's just really kind of like there for a little personal protection and for the unexpected. That's significant because the standard cancellation plan, which is free, it does start incurring cancellation penalties when we get within 90 days before we leave on the trip. So if you enroll today and anytime between now and 90 days before we leave, your plans change. It's just not going to work. You got a nephew that's going to get married and you got to go to that wedding instead or something like that. Instead of going on the trip, you can cancel up before we go 90 days on the trip and you get everything back except the $150 deposit. If you cancel or if the trip's canceled for any reason between 90 and 60 days, there's a 30% penalty. If it's canceled between 60 and 30 days, there's a 50% penalty. And if it's canceled within 30 days, there's no refund. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why we have the trip protection plan, is to give you a little bit of a protection on the trip. It also has some travel interruption delay coverage, emergency medical coverage, and things like that. When you enroll, there will be a page that says you have to agree to our booking conditions before you can move on, and you have to choose to buy or not buy the trip protection plan before you can move on. And that will explain everything in detail. Okay. Let's see. Trip price is $14.95. As I mentioned, it's all inclusive. We're trying to get everybody enrolled by November 4th, and we do have a cap on the number of travelers at 49. Because we can only fit 55 people on the bus. So that's going to be 49 paying travelers to be on the bus. But rest assured, if we are like at November 4th or even sooner, if we already start a wait list after that, we will immediately start getting more airline seats and hotel rooms. And I can't say for certainty, but it's highly likely that if we have a waiting list, everybody's still going to be able to go. We have a couple of different bus options that we can use. So that's not, that shouldn't be a problem, okay? But if you really want to go, get signed up as soon as you can, and then I'm going to provide that date. If you sign up on November 4th, we're going to be able to get you guys on the trip. We have this is what your welcome page looks like. On the flyer, it's got a QR code that looks like that page on the right there. And you just click on the begin enrollment and just start from there. It's pretty straightforward, okay? When you enroll, you have a couple options. You can pay in full or you can do monthly payments. Monthly payments, and you can pay with electronic check, a debit card, or a credit card. That first payment, there are no credit or debit card fees. If you sign up for the monthly payment plan and you use a credit or debit card, there is a 3% credit card fee. Okay. You can also sign up for the ACH, which is your electronic check. That's your bank routing number and bank account number. And you can also sign up for automatic payments. So you just sign up for automatic payments. And what the system will do, if you do monthly payments, you pay your $150 deposit and you pay for the trip protection plan if you want to buy it. And then the system will automatically break up the balance into equal payments due every month, every 30 days, with the final payment date of March 1st. Okay. This is me. I think this is the last slide. So this is brand new. We just actually launched this 3 weeks ago. It's called our crowdfunding page. Every student that enrolls is going to have the option to have their own crowdfunding page. That's what it looks like on the right-hand side. They're able to put a picture of themselves in there. It's going to generate a QR code and a website link. They can add to that pie under John Doe. They can edit that. It will be filled in with some generic information. Hey, so I'm going to Washington, D.C. with my school. Please support my trip. I think it will be like the generic language, but they can edit it. And then it has the itinerary below it. You get that QR code and that web link, and you can send that out to family and friends, and whoever donates to that crowdfunding site, that money goes directly into that person's account. Okay. It's really designed for the smaller donations, like the aunts and uncles out there that maybe never give your son or daughter presents or anything like that, but you might want to throw $25 to your son or daughter's trip. Any other big donations that may come from other family members, I would recommend you work that out amongst yourselves. There is a fee that goes along with these donations. So you can read about those details when you enroll your student. Okay. That's it. So with that, are there any questions for me or anybody else? Covered everything?
Security provided by your company, and security comes with you guys in Washington, or is the security provided in Washington security?
Yeah, it's in Washington. It's a company called Student Watchers, and there's a couple other companies that do it as well. But they're a company that is designed, they just do the hotel security for student groups. They're not armed or anything, but they all have background checks and are vetted and trained. We've been working with them for the 12 years I've been doing this, and they're really just door watchers. They're not going to be there to, fend off an assault or anything like that. They're not police officers or anything like that. They're there really just to and know what to do. So like if there's ever any incidences, like every time they come in, they check in with the guide and the chaperones. We give them the hotel rooms that they're going to be at, make sure that they have the guide's phone number and hotel room. So if there's a room that's being a little bit rowdy or kids keep on opening the doors, the security goes to the guide first, and then if needs be, we'll get the chaperones engaged in addressing those issues or something like that. Yeah.
I know just 10 years ago, when I was working at a high school and doing overnight trips with students, and it was really up to the chaperones to patrol the hallways up and down for hours into the night to make sure everybody was, going to bed. I tell the story of me and another guy who he was on one end of the hallway and I was on the other, and we had a tennis ball. And we just constantly were just throwing the ball down the hallway, kind of letting everybody know we were there and hoped that they would soon fall asleep. So I didn't even know that, I don't know how long this has been going on, to have a security company to be able to take that off of the school chaperones plate, but it's a
We also
really nice feature.
we also do something really simple, and I don't know if any other parents know this trick, but we put tape on the door. So if the door opens, there's no way to put the tape back over.
Yeah.
So it's just a real simple thing that we do, and kids see us put the tape on there so they know. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. Never had any issues with any, and all of our other groups have never had issues with kids, trying to sneak out of their rooms or anything like that. We've had discipline issues that we've had to address and stuff. But at night, when we get to the hotels, there's not any downtime. If there is downtime, like the only time we'll be there early enough for some downtime is if it's been a really wet day. And it's just like, we need to cut this short, get the kids into some dry clothes. Then we'll let the kids come down the lobby and hang out and hang out together as a group before they go back to their rooms. But we also have behavioral expectations. You guys will get a medical release form. All that stuff's handled at the pre-trip meeting about 3 weeks before the trip. And so we'll get all the detailed medical information from you guys that we need to get. You also, when you enroll, you're able to put that in there as well, but we follow up with you on that information too. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a backup plan, with travel, say, something were happening with the airline, delays or whatever is happening that day, or, maybe there are no briefly before the trip, is there a backup plan, or is there a what's the second? What happens? Do you go to the trip, or another day?
Yeah. It's a good question. So typically, we don't have one in place, but we've had to use all of those. We've had to do those when something like that happens. Typically, the airlines are going to work with us to get us on a flight. They know they got 50+ travelers that are part of the group. So they treat us as a group, and sometimes they'll bring in another plane. And then if for some reason it's just impossible to get the group out that day, and it's going to mean like, it has to be pretty extreme that we would consider either rescheduling it, or if we couldn't find a bus or something like that, we would try and see if we could do something like that. But that's the exception. And it kind of, we're at the, just like individual travelers, we're at the airline's mercy with that. So, but that's where our emergency backup team comes into play. I mean, our in-house airlines department, as soon as we realize that they're not getting out and the airlines start telling us, hey, we don't know if we're gonna get you out today, that's where a backup team starts working with the group leaders and saying, all right, well, what are our options, and starts looking into those. And to be honest, it would be pretty, I mean, we could we could end up not getting there until later that night and miss that whole first day. We'd probably still do the trip and just figure out maybe we can get a later return. Maybe we miss a couple things or something on the itinerary, but we would just make sure that we even run a more efficient trip or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was, the question just came in chat too, so it's good. Yeah, so it's 4 students per room. We would assign the students to a room. We have done things as recently as last year where we will ask the students like, hey, give us a list of some of your friends that you'd like to be included with. And our teachers have been great. Ms. Linden's helped with that, and knowing the kids so well. It's kind of like a treaty, a compromise, right? You give them some of it, but you might not be able to make it all work. But that way, you get to know the kids, and that they'll at least have a few of their close friends with them, or in their room together, or in their chaperone group. So they'll definitely get some say in it. But it's just like making a class list. You can't make everybody happy, and we'll try to give each student something, and then there'll be some requests that we'll be like, yes, we will not be putting you together. That might be more boys, I don't know. But we'll do our best to make sure that we do a good job with that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we always try to stay close to the city. We just think you guys are spending too much money to spend an hour driving in the city each way. So we have 2 properties in Alexandria that we use quite often. They're right next to each other, Spring Hill Suites and the Holiday Inn Express. We have a DoubleTree in Crystal City that we'll use. And then out in Falls Church, There's a Hampton Inn that we use. I would say 90% of our groups are in one of those 4 hotels. But it's the rare exception that it's usually a really late booking that we have to move out further into the suburbia or out by Dulles or something like that. But it's always, we really prefer the Holiday Inn Express, Fairfield Inns, Courtyard, Marriott Properties and IHGs, and we stay away from like the Comfort Inns, and we don't do Super 8 or Motel 6, whatever try to keep them 3-star or better. Yeah. And that information you guys will get at the pre-trip meeting as well. So parents and students, but parents mainly, you guys will get a packet. And it'll be like the final itinerary. We've got all the reservations. We know where everything's fitting. This is how the trip's gonna go. You'll get the hotels, address, phone number. You'll get the flight schedule, the detailed flight schedule, flight numbers and all that stuff. You'll get the emergency contact information. Students will get a what to bring list and what not to bring. We'll talk about money. We'll talk about the rooming list. We'll talk about the medical release form, behavior contract. Our behavior contract pretty much mirrors 99% of the school's behavior contracts, so nothing outrageous. And I should have mentioned this before. The only reason I've ever had to send student home on one of my trips because of safety was because we have one rule that we rigidly enforce, and that is at all times, if they have to be in groups of 3 or more at all times. And that's just, there's no questions asked. And sometimes it takes a couple, they go to a museum, here's your boundaries, be back here at 2:30, go out in groups of 3 or more and enjoy the museum. They don't want to follow me around and see what I think is cool about American History Museum. They want to go explore it on their own. And the chaperones and guide are walking around the museum and they'll see a kid by themselves. Says, "Where are your buddies?" "Oh, they left me." "Well, let's make sure we get you guys back together." So they get back together. That happens maybe once or twice. But then the only time I've ever had to send a kid home was like on the end of day 2. He was constantly by himself, and I actually we had to send him home, just because that's such a simple but really effective way to make sure that the kids are looking out for each other, and they do a great job with it. So that's why we think it's pretty effective as well. So
I know in the first meeting, we discussed like maybe a lanyard or maybe a T-shirt or something like that.
they will get lanyards from
And I've
us.
been thinking, you probably have already thought about this, but that phone number that you call, the kids will have that on them if you don't supply that. I think that
We
you
do.
can give them something they can put in. So if they were to be by themselves or something, that they have a number that they can call. And I don't know if this group or this group, has not asked a cell phone question, right? And that's come up some in the comments, but in talking to other schools, whether their method is to try to collect all of them at some point, or they have not allowed them. The group, especially St. Albert, right, who we talked to probably the most. It was just a beautiful trip. And not having that distraction and having all these safety things in place. We just feel really strongly that that's the way to go. I didn't have time over the fall break. I was going to buy a little one-time camera that I've bought on trips and just like show it, like, look, they still, they're out there. I know that they're out there, or digital cameras, those things will be allowed. We're not going to allow iPads and laptops and those kind of things. But of course, we want them to take pictures. We're going to take lots of pictures and send it to you all as well. But there's going to be so many safety checks in place that, we feel really strongly about that. And my hope is for those few who maybe are not going to go because of that reason. I don't know if that's truly the reason or there's something else going on, but for this group, for that group who's listening, or if you watch the recording, for me, I want as many families to go as possible. And I would hate for that to be, the sole factor in students missing out on this opportunity. So, if you have more questions about that, we can talk to them. So yeah, go ahead. Ms. Davis, Ms. Kemp. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, if kids don't go, what are they gonna be doing here at school?
So they're required to come to school, and they'll have a regular school day. We'll have enough teachers here where they'll be, depending on the number, if they'll be in a small group, traveling from class to class and still getting content from the teachers who are here. Probably about half of the 7th and 8th grade team will go on the trip and half will be back. So they'll try to maintain, some of the curriculum at that stage of the game, 1 week before graduation. There won't be much new material to cover. But it'll be a typical day in terms of like attendance and, we haven't really put our heads together yet on what that will look like. Some of I think will depend on how many students do stay back and how many go on the trip. So. Ms. Lewis, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I understand that you mentioned that company policy is always three students together, together, and we previously, as we discussed, a 1 to 8 ratio of students per chaperone. So Dr. Fritz, this question is more so for you. Is it your vision to have, select and kind of low requests, or for you to keep them with that 1 to 8 ratio, kind of they're moving around when you see them?
Right. Yeah, I pictured it mostly you're being with your chaperone at all times, but I think depending on the museum, I guess the last time I was in DC was that 5th grade trip, like 5 or 6 years ago. There's certainly like sections of the museum where you might break off, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna leave my group.
Yeah, so
This point, we're gonna look at this for 20 minutes. But I think, to that point, like you don't even go to the restroom. Like, you travel in packs is I think what you're getting at.
well, it can traditionally, so first of all, I will do whatever Mr. Sturgill wants to do, okay? Traditionally, you're in the museum and they're off outside of the chaperone. We move around as a chaperone group everywhere, but when we get into like a museum, there's only 2 entrances in access into the museum. The kids know these are your boundaries. We let them go in groups of 3 or more. Now, if we have a school, and there are exceptions, this wouldn't be the only one, that says, no, we're going to walk around with the chaperone. That's fine. It's just, if that's the way it's most comfortable to do it with this one, with your school, that's just fine.
Okay.
But there's police and security everywhere. So there's certain places, like when we go to Pentagon City Mall to get lunch, it's a big mall, but all the food courts down there, we'll let the kids go get their lunch and then they can go, we'll set boundaries around that. Sometimes we don't even let them go around the mall. We'll just say, nope, you're in the food court, we're having lunch, and then we're out of here. So we can work. So we can work. That's a big thing for kids in Montana because they've never been in a multi-story mall. So it's like they want to be able to walk. Anyway, so but like it really varies, and so we just accommodate to whatever is most comfortable. And if we want the kids moving around the museums and chaperone groups, that is just fine. They're gonna have a great time doing that. It works out just fine.
What other questions y'all have? Oh,
If we get 55, most airlines are only going to give us 55 seats at the most. So if we get more than that, we might have to go to 2 flights. Yeah. Which is something we're very used to. So. Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm actually going to be looking at May 9th to 12th, make it a Tuesday to Friday. We had dinner beforehand, and after thinking about it further, we were thinking that maybe May 9th to 12th will be better because it's the post derby for one reason. So they gave us the luxury to have both of those days, so it does allow us to see which days get the best flights and we get the most seats. And I know the first round that we looked at, we were having a hard time getting flights for 55 people, and that probably explains why. The day after the derby.
Yeah, when he asked me that, there's some thought that May 9th might be better to leave on a Tuesday. Everybody would be here on that Monday. And then we would fly out on a Tuesday and get back on a Friday. So he asked if we had any flexibility with that. And I said no to the week before, but I said yes to a Monday or a Tuesday. And the more we think about it, there could be a lot of advantages to flying out on a Tuesday. And I know the DC trip I did in 5th grade, where we flew out in the morning and flew back the same night, that was two different flights. Yeah. and that was a smaller group. So
and
it can
I'll-
happen, it can be done, but
And I hope to have those flights and hence the dates set by within the month. We're waiting for Southwest to release their flights. And that's gonna happen at the end of the month. So I would think by mid-November, we'll have those. And so if there's gonna be any change, I'm gonna keep it at 8 to 11 because that's the way I got it set up on the website right now. But if there's any change, I will change it on the website and everybody that's enrolled, I'll send an email out saying, hey, just know the dates got moved to the 9th to the 12th. So it won't be one of those things that we switch a month before, even 3 months before. We'll get that figured out quickly here.
Yes. Just school staff. Yes. So either a 7th and 8th grade teacher or a learning coordinator or a counselor. Like I said, Father Jeff and I will probably not be chaperones. Youth ministry may have a presence. There's maybe someone from youth ministry here, but they'll all be paid St. Patrick. Faculty. So we'll have windows of time, they can call you can call them, you can talk to them, that would be it. From either shots on the phone, or that phone, you get checked into the hotel. One of the biggest liabilities is been having a phone. Because that's the most unstructured time for them to have phones. You know, I mean, if you're in the habit of tracking your child on their phone, I don't know, I mean, everyone, you know, has a different parenting style. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of updates, you know, of where we are. I mean, that's part of why I also want to have a financial program, because I want to be in charge of the communication. Hey, you saw the team of the unknown soldier. How is it to begin? I mean, I don't think it's going to be every hour, but you're going to get several throughout the day, pictures. We might even have like a separate account, you know, like Instagram or something else where there's even more pictures. But the main details will be, and you know, listen, if someone's missing, we'll call it. I mean, no news is good news in that.
Nobody will be missed. Nobody, we won't lose anybody.
Well, I mean,
We won't lose anybody. We've never had. We never will.
I know there's a comfort there, and you're definitely in that comfort zone. Well, Apple Watches, you can access websites, take pictures of people and send them to each other, Snapchat, do all those. The thing with the phone, typically like at school, and again, we're treating these things like school. They, you know, students who have an Apple Watch typically carry a phone, and where there's an Apple Watch, there's a phone close by. So I would, you know, encourage them to wear watches, Fitbits. I don't know if there's Fitbits that have a GPS that you could track, like put a microchip in the dog or something like that. Yeah. AirTag, so everything that was assisted. But yeah, I mean, I would just say like, do your best to trust the process. And just hope a lot of families will give it a shot and will do it. And, you know, there's other Catholic schools who have done it and had great success and went to multiple. You know, so.
Can I add to that? So I started doing these 12 years ago. In the first 5 years, it was the exception that a student had a roll phone with them. So I acknowledge and appreciate the concern We've become much more dependent upon them in a lot of different ways. But as a company, we're very skilled at doing these trips without, because that's the way we used to do them. And that's only a recent thing that every single kid on a trip's got a phone. My biggest concern was pictures. But, you know, we fixed those, and we have other schools that do this as well. So I just want to add that from a company, our systems are in place. Our systems for safety and security don't rely on the kids having a phone. So, I mean, that's the first thing. And I will say, we all know, I mean, we all have our own opinions about, but as a guide, 99% of my drama or potential real serious discipline issues revolved around a phone, inappropriate use of a phone. At night or on a trip, kids, there's other 8th graders there from other parts of the country. Kids swapping information with these other kids, and it's just, you know, how that can be, that's where most of the issues come from. So it does relieve that. I just will say that it does make it a little bit easier for the chaperones and the guide as far as discipline and safety. In some respects, it helps us in a way if they don't have access to that. But at the same point, I do respect his, and we'll follow that as well. But the main point being, as a company, our policies don't rely on the kids having phones. So.
I will also, again, I think I mentioned, might have mentioned this last meeting, that I went on a trip like this last May. Phones were allowed for the students that went to St. Martha, and a lot of the students that did go spent a majority of the time trying to talk to other kids from around the country that were just walking around and getting Snapchats. And you had boys that were trying to see how many Snapchats they could get, and girls that were trying to like meet other groups and stuff. So a lot of that was spent just, yeah. That's just how, like, that's where their heads go, like, okay, they're teens, you know, they're gonna be teenagers.
So we perhaps a chaperone, similar to our. So that we feel we want to just reach out and hey, in.
I anticipated the answer to that being yes. I didn't know about the 24/7 number that you can call.
That's really only for emergency.
That's for emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
call the chaperones if you haven't seen your
think we
child,
were
if you want a picture of
prepared.
your child's
We were
face.
prepared to do that, like you would know, this is my child's chaperone.
Yeah.
Call for a reason, or vice versa. You know, some of these kids haven't been gone from their families for very long, and if they want to call mom and talk about the Basilica Mass for 5 minutes, absolutely, here you go. You know,
They know their child. Reason that how it might be able to do something, because I anticipate one of this being nervous at chaperone. A little call mom right now.
Oh, yeah.
Chaperone very well, so maybe it's something we could do, like somebody's here in this way, and a certain call, they spend a little bit of time. I know they can go see just look at something online. You administrate, not the little, like, the third.
no, I think that's a good suggestion. I know for sure we'll have those groups, you know, finished by the pre-trip.
Oh, for
meeting,
sure.
You
Yeah.
know, so we will be able to get that information out. I think that's a good suggestion, especially maybe for some of those. I mean, there's gonna certainly be in that shared experience, you're gonna get to know your chaperone, hopefully develop that, but be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a good.
Mhm.
And, you know, we are keeping in mind, the skill sets of our chaperones. You know, so this one really wants to go. No, but so I'll give you an example, like Mrs. Smith, our PE teacher, has anybody met her yet? So meet her and you'll know, like, oh, she's, you know, and she's just got a lot of experience. She's just very extroverted, and she's looking for opportunities to help the school and kids and stuff like that. So people like that are super happy to be on chaperones. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I feel really confident about it.
Mine's
So, yeah, you know.
No, that's a fair suggestion. That's good.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's what- Sounds
Any others? I know I need to address fundraising, so there's a sheet that just went out for that. So here's where we are with fundraising. Get back over to the screen. So as of now, we have 3 individual fundraisers that will be available to students beginning in just a few days, once we get all this organized with how you're going to get them and how you're going to track them and turn them back in. But the first one is the cash book savings. It looks like this. These big coupon books, they sell for $20 and you get $10 back. The second one is this Papa Murphy's card. They sell for $10 and you get $9 back. And I'm still skeptical that that's true, but apparently it is. And the third one is poinsettias. And I want to explain how this is going to work in terms of tracking. So it's very clean, and I was very impressed with Global Travel and how this all fits together. But you will get, let's say you want to sign up for 20 cash books. That will be assigned to you. Okay, it'll all go through the parish business office, and then you will turn back the money in to the business office, or you'll turn back the money plus maybe 5 books that you didn't sell. Okay, that way they don't go missing. So if you are allotted 20, then you either have to turn that money in, or you turn back however many books that you didn't sell. And then the business office sends this note to Global Travel, and that money comes right off your bill from Global Travel. All right, now the school also wants to use some of our own budget, and depending on how many people enroll, we want to take some of our field trip money and we want to put it to the trip to take anywhere from $50 to $100 to maybe more off, depending on how many students attend. So we're looking around $5,000 we want to put towards this trip for the kids. We'll tell Global Travel, hey, there's 50 students enrolled, we put 5,000, so go ahead and take $100 off of each family's bill. So that's how it's going to work. Same for poinsettias, same for Papa Murphy. So you're going to turn all this in to some parents who are helping organize the fundraising committee, and then it'll all go through the business office, and the business office talks to Global Travel, and that money gets deducted. The same way the crowdsourcing link gets deducted straight off that account. So if you have $600 left, and then all of a sudden $400 is put in, you'll have a remaining balance of $200 that will show up through that account that you create on the site. There's also talks of more of a community focused fundraising, and I think that something will happen, but that has to be vetted through the fundraising committee with the parish. So these have already been approved. So examples of that might be, you'll see a couple on there, like Texas Roadhouse night. Everybody who goes and supports the school, Texas Roadhouse on Monday for the next 2 months, that money, 10% will go to, and that would be a general collection. So if we collect $1,000 from that, we'll send that money to Global Travel, divide that by 50 students, and that money will get taken off of the bill in that way. So that's how it will work. And we just need to get together. This got approved over fall break, these that are on this list. So we just need to get together with how we're going to get that material to the students, and then get to selling and getting to turn that in. So I just feel like we need to get that procedure really crystal clear for everybody before we start. But that's the fundraising. So for the individual ones, they can raise as much money as they possibly can, and that will be deducted from their final bill. The last thing I wanted to mention on that is there is some scholarship talks, opportunities. We can't really follow that policy until everybody gets. And once we know who is enrolled, then we will send out that information about scholarship and scholarship opportunities, and we would go from there. Get your hand going up. No. No, it's, right now, it's all just gonna have to be sort of off campus, if you will. There's a very robust calendar with the parish, and at this moment, there's not any room to do that. So it would just have to be all neighborhood, family. So there's been a list of probably 100 ideas, like shave my head, donate $1, do those kind of things. I've already done that, by the way. Yeah, it would be your beard. That would be your beard, my friend. I think so. I won't say I'm totally closed off to those ideas. I think the first steps are to get these things going, see how many people get enrolled, see where we are with everything. Get the fundraising committee back. It took a lot to sort of get these things approved quickly. And the parish fundraising committee exists so that families don't feel like every other day they're being asked to give $5 to a cause, because there's a good cause everywhere that you turn. And so they're trying to protect that. And so this cause is really important, but there's other causes that are really important, and we have to just be mindful of how often we're hitting people up, to donate to different things. So that's the sort of the proceed with caution and take our time a little bit on some of those things. Not saying I won't get my head shaved, or not saying, but that's always like an easy idea. Like, hey, if everybody donates $1, for a uniform day, we raise, X amount of money, but those ideas are thrown out all the time for all kinds of different things, so. This group is, kind of piloting what I think will become a tradition at St. Patrick. And so we're a little behind the eight ball on time and those things. And I think as it goes on, for those of you who have younger students, we'll have some things in place that'll happen earlier, and, it'll fall into place. So.
One question that comes up, if there's more fundraising money that comes in after March 1st, and was made full, and it has to go to global travel line, we'll get that check, we'll refund the money back to you, we'll send you guys back a check. So it's ideal to get all the fundraising money before March 1st if possible. But like say you only owe $300 on March 1st, and you raise $600, we would cut a $300 check back. So that works all the way up until the end of March. Right?
So I don't have any other questions on the chat for those of you who are still with us. So thank you. Any final questions? So we'll share this recording out probably tomorrow. Shouldn't be a problem. But I appreciate you all being here on the ground floor, listening to Paul, and I know how it works. So I would just encourage you to share the good news with all of your fellow classmates, friends, and we'd love to see a full trip. It's capped at 49 right now. We feel pretty confident we can hit that, and if we have to open up more, we'll talk about that too. So that'd be a good problem to have.
Well, thank you all for coming. Really pleasure to meet you all. See you back here again.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
And if you have any questions for me.
Thank you.